It's John Pollock here alongside John Ramdeen and Robin Black. Bellator has announced the first fight for welterweight Rory MacDonald. It's going to happen May the 19th at Bellator 179 against Paul Daley, the man who threw out the challenge to Rory MacDonald. And it's been accepted, and it's going to be in London, England as well, which is interesting.
I love this. When you have competition, and I don't know if we have competition between Bellator and the UFC, but Bellator is doing their best. When you have competition, you get to see fights like this, because in order for Bellator to try to gain some of the fan base from the UFC, they have to put on big fights. And if you are a fight fan, you know who Rory MacDonald is, and you certainly know who Paul Daley is. And this is a sensational fight. And what it does is it helps set up Bellator's 170-pound division, which we've looked at over the last number of weeks. And it is shaping up to be a must-see division when you have Douglas Lima, your champion, Andrei Koreshkov, Paul Daley, Rory MacDonald, Brennan Ward, a part of that division as well. Njokuani, right? Michael Page. Right now, things are shaping up very, very nicely. And just to think about Rory MacDonald getting back in the cage, because we thought it wouldn't be until summertime, until July, that he'd be.
This will be 11 months since the Stephen Thompson fight. Do you like this kind of an introductory fight for Rory MacDonald in the Bellator welterweight division?
I love it. You should have seen Ramdeen's face. It's funny. He's walking in, he's got his bag and whatever. I'm like, Paul Daley versus Rory MacDonald. He's like, is that what they announced? It's an awesome fight. Rory is definitely obviously wanting to move forward in this fight. He's had his nose broken a number of times. To get to this guy, you got to pass through the danger zone. And man, you know, Paul Daley will be underestimated repeatedly, probably forever. But if he drills that shin in 2 or 3 times and moves his feet, we got us a real killer fight. It is a spectacular fight. Daley's confidence goes up and up and up. There's this idea somewhere out there with people, all you got to do is take Paul Daley down. Yeah, who's been doing that in the last 3 years? You know, it's very hard to do. Universally, succeeding in putting somebody on their back is getting harder and harder to do, as the room itself where people train raises its aptitude for stopping people from doing that. It's a killer fight, spectacular.
Is this the new technology that we're seeing? Because based on what we know, all these strikers, they're utilizing their takedown defense to make sure everything stays standing. Nobody can get close to their hips. They circle around and they punch and kick and they look for the knockout. Paul Daley, he's been around for so long. Is this just been the moment for everything to come together for him?
For sure. And for some reason, in the development of the fighting technology over the last number of years, a guy would get to my hips and then I would execute my takedown defense, which means he's there and I look for my underhook, or I push his head down, any number of sequences of things to defend the takedown. And then all of a sudden, people start thinking, why did I let him get to my hips? Why don't I just stop this before it began? And people started moving their feet in ways that it's difficult for you to get to my hips, and I can, as you adjust, I come in and strike you. Paul Daley's been doing that for years. This is a very challenging fight for Rory MacDonald, a legitimate test for Rory MacDonald, and that's why the fight is so excellent.
Yeah, I think that this was the right fight to make with Rory MacDonald, not putting him in a title fight right away that they did with Benson Henderson. I think for Rory, it's going to have been close to a year since his last fight. And to be honest, Rory MacDonald versus Douglas Lima, or Rory MacDonald versus Paul Daley, for the television viewership, I think the Paul Daley fight, you can replay that knockout against Brennan Ward over and over again. You've got the big star coming over from the UFC. There's a lot to like about this fight. Another interesting story to watch with Bellator, on Wednesday night, they had this story come out that Viacom is looking at rebranding Spike TV after more than 13 years of Spike being that channel, and it should become the Paramount Network, and whether this has any impact on their dedication to fighting. They have an ownership of Bellator, and I think they're pretty safe, but that's really interesting because under that Spike umbrella, they had a lot of success through mixed martial arts and just
built-in fan base
as a brand with that cable.
Yeah, it's very strange, but hey, what do I know? It seems that Viacom has had a relationship with combat sports over the years, whether it's Showtime, whether it's Bellator, or Spike TV, or whether it's CBS. Elite XC was on there. They've had kickboxing matches on there. So they love combat sports, it seems. So I'm sure that this is going to be a part of their future, because they wouldn't sign Rory MacDonald for $500,000 a fight if they were going to close up shop.
And while you're at it, if you own the network and you own the product on the network, let's just call it Paramount Fighting while we're at it.
Yeah.
But I always say this every time that Paul Daley, we're talking about him, Go back and watch Paul Daley versus Nick Diaz. Go on Fight Pass and watch Paul Daley versus Nick Diaz. That's the most fun 4.5 minutes or 5 minutes you're going to have.
There you go. That's your homework as you get set for Rory MacDonald and Paul Daley, which will be going down May 19th in London, England.